John O'Shea is probably one of the most famous faces working for charity. Originally from County Kerry, John began his working life in sports journalism, but news images of the famine in Ethiopia in the 1980s was to change his life utterly. That human catastrophe which inspired Live Aid also led John to set his sights on making a difference in the world.
I was always sort of entrepreneurial. From a very young age, I was making a few bob to do things. So I felt that if I got out into the third world, I'd find a way of getting aid to the poor, because I'd read enough to know that bureaucracy and corruption were huge out there. So I felt you had to be fairly smart and businesslike, and that kind of excited me. So it wasn't really until after the Ethiopian famine of '84, when people were calling around to my house, "Oh, Mr. O'Shea, saw all the children on the television, they're all hungry, you know, here's me granddaddy's coat." Jenny Mac, I'd hundreds of tons of stuff be delivered to my house. My wife nearly went bananas. So I got an office after that. But it was in Ethiopia I realised that to be successful and to do a meaningful job, we had to be very businesslike.
The concept of entrepreneurship is not just around business. It's shared with social entrepreneurs, and John O'Shea is probably one of the great examples of social entrepreneurship, not alone in Ireland but on the world stage.
Taking their inspiration from John's other great passion, much of their fundraising involves sports-related events like the Goal Charity Mile. In their first year, Goal distributed about €15,000 to those in dire need in the Third World. Last year, they raised and redistributed around €60 million.
If you came in here off the street and you didn't look at the photos on the wall, you would think that we're a printing company or a designing company. We're set up in the same way. We are funding long-term development programmes in all our countries, but we've always got to be ready for this sudden onset emergency, which is what Go's Raison d'etre is. And that means, of course, if a hurricane hits a third world country, if there's a flood, we've got to be there to do what we can do. We can only do that with money. So we don't spend immediately as we raise. We've got to put budgets in place and stick firmly to them. We've a responsibility to the countries that we set up the programmes in 10, 15, 20 years ago. So cash flow is absolutely crucial to an organisation like Goal. We have the responsibility of an awful lot of people in the developing world relying on us to ensure that our cash flow is accurate at all times.
To succeed as a social entrepreneur and to succeed in running a business in essence like Goal, one has to apply business principles. John has done all that.
On the front line, there are 160 goalies in the Third World, working alongside up to 2,600 local doctors, nurses and engineers.
The first year they don't get paid, but after that they get paid a certain amount, because we're now encroaching on their lives. So if a young girl at 28 years of age takes a year out of the Mater Hospital, let's say, she will have arranged to go back to the Mater Hospital, so there's no sweat there. But she falls in love with the Third World when she's out there. I can't expect her to stay out in South Sudan on pittance. So she gets paid so she can pay her mortgage and so forth. And some of them then stay on for a long period. Then they become fully fledged professionals. You'll get nothing done in the Third World. Perhaps you could argue you won't get anything done in any world unless you have quality. The competition in the Third World for quality people is extraordinarily sharp nowadays.
Well, I think you have to have an entrepreneurial approach here. You've got to be open-minded. We have so many obstacles in our way in the developing world. So we're constantly looking to try to evolve differently, try to come up with good ideas in the developing world. What we do is we act quickly. And I firmly believe that an entrepreneur doesn't wait. They go in, they take the risk. We're led by an entrepreneur here, and that has helped us because although it's sometimes difficult working with entrepreneurs, they work at a different pace and at a different level to a lot of us. It is exciting because things get done. So if a disaster strikes at 6 o'clock this evening, we know that by 9 o'clock we'll have people on the way there, and that is because we make decisions really, really quickly.
While inequality persists in the world, there will be an ongoing need for the dedication of charity organisations. And John O'Shea has no doubt that people will continue to answer the call to help.
I'm thrilled, embarrassed and almost humbled to get this award.
The thing that would draw people to Goal would be the absence of bureaucracy, a sort of a no-nonsense approach that we have. There is a lot of form filling that one has to do when you're deriving the bulk of your income from international donors such as the US government, the Irish government, British government, United Nations, EU. It's something about the way we express ourselves. We're not into conferences. We're not into meetings. We're not into theses. We're not into task forces. So we've got to get in there and try and get aid to these people as best we can and hope that we can act as a catalyst. We're never going to solve the problem. We're too small. But if it's a problem for one person and we save that child's life, isn't that important?